I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, July the 19th, where we've got a positive outlook here, and not just for near term this week, but also long term too. As you look, the Packers kind of tipped their hand that they're going to pay more money for fat cattle this week if the board doesn't crash here in the last part of the week like it sometimes does. But they're sure short bought after last week's very limited volume that they bought. And looks like they're going to have to come in here and give more money for the kind of cattle that they're going to need to keep the chain speeds up where they want. And the board was up really good on Wednesday, kind of given the notion that that we've got through the worst of these supplies here, and working on the downhill side of these supplies, which is going to help us a whole lot. And then if you look down the road, things just keep looking better, because as our supplies kind of get back in order, our demand is still really good. And you know, don't forget that the beef cow slaughter is up big. Our heifer slaughter is up big. You know, if you looked on some of these big videos that we've seen that I've paid attention to here this summer, you notice that most all these big ranches are selling most all of their heifers. And the guys that are buying the heifers are not buying them for replacements, but rather just to feed. So that gives us a good idea that maybe we're going to keep these supplies in check for a while. And as long as demand stays good, we should be in good shape for decent markets going down the road here for a long term. But look at the board on Wednesday. August live cattle futures up $2.52 at 108.95. Go out to October, up $2.15 at 110.65. August feeder cattle up $3.17 at 154.45, and that's quite a premium to what cattle are bringing right now on the average. Now I know we get some of those monster sales out of Nebraska and places, but on the average, your real-time index on Beef Market Central, based on the 800-pound steer, still just sitting at 146.18. And we've got our August, which is a spot feeder cattle board, at 154.45. So it looks like things could keep getting a little bit better and go all the way out to October, up 272, a pinch better than that at 154.72. And it still amazes me the way that these fall feeder futures are staying up there at current levels for this summer, and even at a premium, even though we know there's going to be calves hitting the market, and those big calves out of the northern plains and the mountain regions that are going to come, that are going to deliver and go into the feedlot. They're too heavy and too fleshy and balling, too much to do anything else with but put them in the feedlot, and it is going to weigh on the feeder cattle market. But these fall feeder futures continue to stay up there pretty high. But the fat cattle market, I haven't seen anything really on a direct basis to speak of at all. Did have the Fed Cattle Exchange on Wednesday morning, and normally that passes kind of by, but the Packers can use that to tip their hand and kind of give a show of what's going on out there. And they sure enough did on Wednesday, even though there's a little over 400 head on offer there. One pen in Kansas did sell at 112. That would be a buck better than the best that we had last week, and that was mostly in Texas. They PO'd another Kansas pen at 111, so that shows that your cattle feeders are looking for that better market too, and didn't want to take probably better than what they could have got last week at 111. Wasn't much of that in Kansas. But cattle on feed projections are out now. Your July 1st inventories are pegged at 104.3, which is less cattle than what we saw in the previous report, but still the largest that we will see if it comes to fruit since they've started that data set. Which you know, I've mentioned that before. It seems like we always have something that's a record compared to that data set. But your placements in June are going to be large, but only 101.3. But that's compared to a monster number that we had a year ago. So don't think that we didn't have big placements. We did have big placements. A lot of cattle moving through June out of direct areas and the sale barns. But and in fact that might be a little bit light. That might be a little bit optimistic for the cattle market at 101.3. It's likely to be heavier than that, even though it's compared to that monster number a year ago. But marketings in June 100.8, and they usually get those pretty close. Let's look at some of your feeder cattle markets on Wednesday. Of course, the biggest market, OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma, 7,800 head there for the 2-day sale. Feeder cattle on Wednesday sold $3 to $6 higher. Now that's a bunch, because remember we saw those big gains right around 4th of July time, and then it leveled off just a little bit, but coming back strong again this week as everybody's real optimistic on this market. About 2,000 head of calves on Tuesday sold fully steady. You look at a quote out of El Reno there, 80 head of 829-pound steers out of Paris, Texas, with an attractive flesh condition, all black, 829 pounds at 150. And that's where some of your premier groups are selling, even though just commodity cattle, and in the southern plains and in areas outside of those big premium areas. But 150 on a light 8 weight, that's a really good price on a nice string of cattle. Now, like I said, the RTI on the average is still setting just over 146, but that's not for a string of cattle. That's the average of all those 700 to 899 pound cattle put together. But look at a monster quote out of Albion, Nebraska. Albion, Nebraska is getting as good a quotes as any of those Nebraska sales, but you don't hear a lot about them. But they sure sold them well on Wednesday. Had a great sale there, but 99 head of 802-pound steers at 163.10. That's a ticket. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.